last week we talked a lot about Huma, and a small recap is Huma is a challenger team in Europe who is owned by a 22-year-old British kid, I believe, who doesn't have enough money to pay his players and doesn't have enough money to pay his coaching staff and has been lying about his bank account, showing bank accounts under a different of his dad who has the same name as him to his staff, saying, hey, I have this much money, when in reality he didn't. And it's come to light that this was a contender in the challenger scene filled with big names to make it into the actual league championship series, which is where all the pros play. Well, Samster, unfortunately you can't watch the stream while it's downloading. Understandable. I'm glad that I got you excited for Rocket League. Have fun with it. Continue to play it. Let me go ahead. Find me on Twitter. Go to my website. Let me know if you like it. And please continue to follow us. I think Twitter is at Esports Consult. And it's been a pleasure having you on here. I'll talk to you later, man. So, as far as Huma goes, though, Huma had major issues with paying their players, paying and going through this, and it all came out. Now, its support staff is a guy named Dentist and Kuma, and these are esports veterans, specifically League of Legends veterans. And that was the manager and the coach, and they came out and made a bunch of public statements about how he was refusing to sell the team and he was thinking about selling the players so that he can continue to get the team into LCS, where he could then sell his team for a ton of money. And some of the players on the team were kicking back. Well, it just came out over the weekend via the Daily Dot article that LCS former TSM Walking Ward is returning to the North American scene to light up the path for Team Ember. Now, Santorin was the jungler for TSM, the poster team for North America. He was the poster child, or he was on the team, the best team in North America. Last year, they made it to Worlds, and he got a lot of criticism for not doing very much on the team, even though he's a very mechanically sound player. He ended up quitting TSM, moving back to Europe, and thought he was going to retire from League altogether until Huma approached him, made him team captain, offered him a big payout, and he started playing for them. Now he's been sold to Ember, and I believe is coming back here to North America on another VC team. And the deal was for 100K. Why the deal itself is okay. It's not the biggest thing in the world, and if you haven't had a chance to read the article, I highly suggest it. It's got a lot of good information on the whole situation, right? Courtesy of Jacob Wolf at the Daily Dot, who at the Daily Dot they post good content, and they're usually up to date on all the undercover roster changes. Now, why this is important. I'm not going to go too much into why the challenger scene is important. We talked a lot about that last week. Instead, I'm going to move on to the community's reaction to this. In particular, one of the unsung heroes of the League of Legends community and the esports community. And I'm going to share with you his posting. Esportlaw. Now, Esportlaw on Sunday spent a few hours writing up a big post about what you should do if you want to enter in the challenger scene. I kind of want to elaborate on it and use some of the topics that he talked about because it's very true. But this is coming from a business point of view and not a law point of view. He talks a lot in his article about due diligence, and this is true for every scene, whether it's Rocket League, Dota, League of Legends, anything really. You need to follow these rules and you need to do these steps. But he talks a lot about due diligence and getting everything signed in writing. Now, due diligence is when you go through, usually it's in context when two companies merge or when a company goes to buy out another company, they have somebody go in and look through it all. Look through it and be like, hey, yo, this is okay. I'm going to sign off on this. Everything's okay. We're good. Or, hey, yo, dog, don't buy this company. There's a lot of weird things. Their financials are out of shape. I've done some digging, and they don't have the money that they said they would. Yada, yada, yada. That's due diligence at a corporate level. At an esports level, your due diligence is going in and actually making sure that these owners are who they said they are, that their players are who they said they are, that the support staff is there, that the team has their money. This means that, hey, I'm a challenger player in League of Legends, and this challenger scene's coming up to me, and you know, he's saying that he has Bjergsen locked in for next season, right? I would then go, Bjergsen's a big name, the biggest name in North America. I would then go to other players in the challenger scene and be like, hey, have you heard that Bjergsen's going to this? Or even go to Bjergsen himself. Hey, are you going to that team? They've approached me to have another spot on it, so I'd be on a team with you. To figure out if those deals are actually true, if things are actually happening. So that you're not getting blindsided, so you sign a contract and then suddenly Bjergsen's not on your team and you're, for lack of better words, screwed over, right? This is your due diligence. Always, and right here, trust but verify. You know, sure, you can be buying into it. You could be pulling out your wallet, but don't give them the credit card. Don't give them the keys to the car until you've verified the sources and you verify that they have what they're talking about. And then, of course, you get everything signed in writing. And this is just a sense of don't make any verbal contracts. What screwed over Kuma and Dentist is that they never got a contract. The contract kept getting pushed off. And they ended up being free agents. And it ended up hurting them as a whole. So, and so I went through and I continued to read this article. And I ended up going down and reading a lot of postings, a lot of Reddit postings as this went on. And what got me was a lot of people started talking about how, but this kid, you see, there's like dimes and dozens of challenger players. They're everywhere. You know, if I don't sign on, some other kid's just going to take my spot. Yes and no. Realistically, there's only 800 and I have the number for you, 871 accounts in North America from Masters up. Now, League of Legends goes Diamond, Master, and then Challenger, right? Challenger is 200 of those 800 are in Challenger. And when you start factoring in doubles of accounts or triples of accounts, because most of these top players have multiple accounts within Challenger all the way up to Diamond, and you start factoring in how a lot of these people probably don't even want to play competitively, that pool for Masters and up players starts to shrink a lot, which is why a lot of teams will put like Diamond must be Diamond 3, right? Because they need to widen that pool. But the reality of it, if you're not a Master or Challenger player, you don't have or of a Master and Challenger MMR, right? Then you probably shouldn't be applying for the Challenger scene. You should be working on your own skill to build up that. Nobody's going to want a Platinum player. Nobody's going to want a Diamond 5 player for the most part. And unless you're specifically pulled out of games to apply, as in somebody approaches you, which is usually because your MMR is inflated and you're way higher up, than you are way lower ranking than you are at actual MMR. And I know there are some exceptions to this rule. Balls was Diamond 5 when he was back playing in Korea. Well, that was A, Korea, and B, Balls has been hit and miss, right? And who else was there? There was Faker. Faker wasn't even ranked for the most part before. He only played normals until he found out on ranks, right? And then he got picked up by SKT almost immediately. And Shy, I believe was Shy for CJ Entis, doesn't take his ranking very seriously. And I think Bang too. Bang or Wolf, one of them. Those are the outliers. And the thing about outliers is you're probably not one of them. Does that mean that you shouldn't try to go into challenger scene? Yes, it does mean... No, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. But it does mean that you have to put a lot of effort into the teams that want to take you. And then you have to vet them, and you have to talk to them. And if they start threatening you that they're going to go to another player, call them out on it. You take everything with a grain of salt. Do your due diligence. You can't afford... I mean, if you're a 19-year-old kid, you can't afford to be on a crappy challenger team for any game that isn't going to treat you properly. You don't want to be the guy who continuously gets, abused and beat up in the scene. Which moves on to my next point. Oh, well, before we get to that, let's talk about something that esports law talks about a fair amount. If you're in talks with somebody to be on their challenger team, to go into them, get a lawyer involved. And no, you don't have to hire a brand new lawyer, a well-established lawyer. More than likely, you don't need that level of expertise with 30 years under his belt who doesn't understand the esports scene. Go out and find yourself a young lawyer. Esports Law talks about how much, in his posting, right, how much he has to, let me see if I can find the exact quote, I can't see it off the top of my head. He talks about doing how there's a lot of people out there and how he used to do a lot of free work or pro bono work where you would pay him work that he would do and then you'd pay back later, and small amounts of money involved, right? Because as a young lawyer, you need all the experience you can get out there. And there's a lot of people who are trying to make their name as esports lawyers who aren't as established as esports law, but sure are coming out of school, passing the bar, and know enough to be able to help you draft up a contract, or teach you the right questions to ask during a contract, or maybe even sit with you at a table when you're there discussing your contract, because hey, that's valuable experience they can put on their resume when they're going for a firm or looking to make their own brand. And you find that by PMing. Esports Law isn't the only guy, esports lawyer or gaming lawyer on Reddit. I came across 4 accounts when I was doing my research today. Excuse me. And you start talking with one, ping one enough, and they start handing you off to others, or you just make a post saying, hey, I need a lawyer, can somebody help me? In any of these threads, usually it gets picked up. The situation is you have to take care of yourself. And it's important to take care of yourself because you are your own brand. You're not Bjergsen or Doublelift who is defining TSM and TSM defines them. You are yourself, you are your own brand name, you are building your brand so that you can later go out and find major teams to play for. And every time you get caught up in one of these scandals, it's going to follow you, it's going to follow your brand, and it's going to hurt you. And you can't afford those kind of mistakes when you're starting off. That's why hiring a lawyer, that's why due diligence, that's why all these brilliant things that esports law talks about are so important. And if you have the time, I suggest going through and finding this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I should put there should be a description underneath with a link to it, because I think it's very important for anybody, any challenger in any challenger level player, any amateur level player in any esport game should follow these guidelines.